She could feel them crawling inside her top. Why would they do this? Why? She jumped down from the step stool and shook out her sleeves. That didn't work. She had to roll them up. And when she did, she found moths casually strolling along her arms. Why weren't they trying to escape? What did they want with her? She smacked them like mosquitoes, and they died a quick death. But they didn't fall and flutter to the ground. They just stayed there, smashed against her skin, until she peeled them off. Part of her wanted another shower, but what would be the point? She'd just have to fight the moths again when she got out. So instead of a shower, she grabbed the vacuum, the stick vac. If you took off the bottom part, you could use it like one of those handheld ones. Olivia had discovered this by accident. She plugged it into the socket in the hallway just outside her bedroom door and waited for the moths to settle in their safe space at the top of the wall. They'd already started. There was a good lineup going on. But she wouldn't begin until they'd all stopped flapping around her bedroom. They were lazy from what she observed. They didn't like to fly. Maybe that's why they'd landed on her wrists. It was the closest place to settle. "Okay, moths," she said. "You don't like me, and I don't like you." No, that sounded really mean. "I shouldn't have said that," she corrected herself. "I don't dislike you. If you were out in the world, I would have nothing against you. But you're in my bedroom, and you're flying in my hair, and I don't like that one bit. So, I'm going to have to suck you into this vacuum and throw you down the garbage chute. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it's gotta be." She turned on the vacuum and got it up against the wall before the moths had a chance to react. They weren't too quick off the draw, and Olivia used that to her advantage, sucking up every creature in that long line. It was easy. Almost too easy. She wasn't sure if getting sucked into a vacuum was enough to kill them, and she wasn't going to wait to find out. Yes, she was in her pajamas, but desperate times called for desperate measures. And if her neighbors saw her in her PJs, so what? It wasn't the end of the world. With the stick vac in hand, Olivia rushed to the garbage chute. She opened it and dumped the contents of her vacuum's reservoir down the hole without looking. If she looked, they might fly into her hair again, so she kept her face well back while she smacked the trap. She reassembled her vacuum in the hallway. No signs of any moths. Could it really be that easy? Were they really gone for good? The elevator dinged down the hall, so Olivia ran back to her apartment before whoever was getting off could see her. She shoved the stick vac in the broom closet, then made her way to the bedroom. A moth. One lonely moth right up at the top of the wall, near the ceiling. But a different wall this time. Instead of perching above the closet, this moth had found its way over to the wall that had a desk pushed up against it. She never worked in the bedroom anymore. The computer in there was old. Nothing really wrong with it, she just liked her laptop better. Her swivel chair wasn't the most comfortable thing in the world, but it worked for climbing. She rolled it away from the desk and turned the back to the wall. That should hold. She stepped on the seat, and the chair wiggled beneath her. This might not be the smartest idea she'd ever come up with. She'd have to kill that moth fast. The problem was that she wasn't tall enough, or the chair wasn't high enough, one or the other. Either way, she couldn't reach the moth to smack it. Her swivel chair had armrests, and they seemed pretty sturdy, made from durable plastic. If she climbed them, 1 foot on each armrest, that should do the trick. She grabbed hold of the chair back for balance, but as soon as she raised her foot, the whole thing started turning. Maybe if she shifted her weight, she could guide it back around. She lifted her other foot, but prematurely. Oh God, she should have waited. She was really swiveling now, clutching the back of the chair for dear life. The sound of a key in the door rang in her ears. Before she knew it, Shay was running at her, crying, "Livy, are you trying to kill yourself?" "No, I'm trying to kill a moth," Olivia explained. Shay helped her down from the chair, lecturing her all the while. She didn't need the lecture. She knew it was stupid to use a swivel chair as a step stool. But everybody did stupid things once in a while, when they were feeling lazy or whatever. And anyway, what was the story behind the dollar store bag looped around Shay's wrist? Oh, right. Shay opened the bag and brought out a bunch of lavender-scented air fresheners. Moths hate this stuff. I'm gonna smell like an old lady. Better than living with moths for the rest of your life. Shay picked up Mr. Davies' wife's bag and asked, "What's this?" "It's nothing." Olivia grabbed it from her and tossed it in the closet. "Why are you here anyway? I thought you said you needed space." With a sigh, Shay sat on the bed, beside the pile of air fresheners she'd tossed there. I do. But it seemed like you probably needed me more." "Aw, that's so sweet," Olivia mewed, wrapping both arms around her girlfriend's neck. "You're the best. You really are. I'm sorry about the stuff I said before. I was upset because of Mr. Davies, that's all. You didn't deserve it. I'm sorry." "It's okay, I understand." "I know you do." They kissed, just softly, but then Olivia pulled away because she hadn't showered since the second time those moths swarmed her. Plus, that one moth was still up there on the wall. No, wait, now there were 2. She grabbed the tall step stool while Shay tucked the chair under her desk, back where it belonged. Shay offered to slaughter the 2 moths. While she was up there, she saw a third and crushed it, too. Then they both needed a shower, so they took one together. That was good. It was just what they needed at the end of a night like this. After spraying lavender room freshener all over everything, Shay said it was time for bed. She had to get up early most mornings because she coached all kinds of sports before school. But Olivia worked best at night, so as soon as her girlfriend was sawing logs, she slipped out of bed and opened her laptop. In the living room, of course. The bedroom smelled like 80-year-old potpourri. She fell asleep on the couch. By the time she woke up, Shay was gone. For breakfast, she felt like toaster pastries, but when she opened the freezer, her gaze landed on an anomalous plastic bag. Mr. Davies' sweater. She'd forgotten about it already. That's why she liked sleeping. You always forgot about real-life stuff while you were asleep. It was only when you woke up and you got into your day that you remembered all the bad things. all the very bad things. She took the sweater out of the freezer and banged it against her countertop, solid as a rock. She tossed it in the sink, bag and all. No, she couldn't wait for it to thaw. She was too impatient. She ran cool water over it like defrosting a piece of fish. Eventually, the block of fabric turned loose and very cold to the touch. The boiling water had definitely shrunk the sweater. She couldn't even really see the moth holes anymore. They must have closed up during the shrinking process. Well, that was good. That was great. Olivia drained the water from the sink. She felt Mr. Davies' sweater inside and out. The outside felt like wet wool, but the inside felt different, felt pilled. When she inspected the fabric closely, she could see that there were little somethings on the inside. Little whats? They were hard, like grains of sand, only slightly bigger than grains of sand. Larvae. Dead larvae. She was sure of it. All the little dead things clinging to the inside of Mr. Davies' sweater. She'd boiled them and frozen them and killed them, she was pretty sure. But they hadn't gone away. They were still hanging on. She'd have to wash this sweater for real, in a washing machine, and dry it in a dryer. What time was it? The laundry room should be open by now. But she should probably get dressed before going there. As far as Olivia was concerned, her moth problem was over. She'd killed every last one of them. That's why she jumped when she noticed a flutter on the drapes in her bedroom. So they'd relocated, had they? Olivia wasn't going to stand for this. The moths would not be allowed to take over her life. She dressed quickly, then grabbed the stick vac and set it loose on those curtains. It didn't work too well on fabric. Or maybe it worked too well. It sucked the curtains in, allowing most of the moths to escape unharmed. Luckily, they didn't fly at her this time. They settled on the wall beside the window, and that was easy enough to get at. All she had to do was stand on her bed. This time, the vacuum made easy work of those little flying dust machines. As soon as she got in the mall, she took the vacuum out into the hall like she'd done the night before. She dumped its contents down the garbage chute. Enough of this. Olivia grabbed her laptop under one arm and tossed the wet wool sweater into a dry plastic bag. Before leaving her apartment, she sprayed the drapes with lavender air freshener. She sprayed her bed, sprayed her couch, sprayed her rug, sprayed everything. She sprayed that stuff around until she couldn't breathe. If moths hated the smell so much, they could choke on it and die. Olivia wouldn't be around to suffer. In the laundry room, she was able to get some work done while Mr. Davies' sweater went around and around the washing machine. The building had set up free Wi-Fi in the laundry room, probably because the laundromat down the street was way cheaper. Most tenants had started going there instead, and the landlord obviously wanted tenants spending their laundry money in-house. It really adds up, especially if your whole load is just one sweater. When Mr. Davies' wool sweater came out of the dryer, it looked better than it had when he used to wear it. Way smaller, but that didn't trouble Olivia. She felt the inside. All the dead grains of larvae seemed to be gone, or else she wouldn't have put it on. Oh, it felt so nice and cozy warm from the dryer. Felt like a big hug from Mr. Davies, from when he loved her, from when they loved each other. She could feel his presence all around her, and she hugged herself to feel him more. She could even smell him on the sweater, probably because he smelled like Tide. She hugged herself harder, enjoying his presence, wanting him back in her life, wanting him to come back to life. They'd never really said goodbye, not in a final way, not the way people say goodbye in the movies when one of them is dying in the hospital. Not like that. An old man walked into the laundry room, and he seemed embarrassed when he saw Olivia lost in her own embrace. He laughed nervously and asked, "Am I interrupting something?" She didn't answer, just grabbed her laptop and left the room, returned to her apartment. Already she'd forgotten about spraying all that air freshener. When she opened the door, the scent of lavender smacked her in the face. She rushed to the windows, opened them all. The air outside was still quite cool. Good thing she had on this warm, cuddly sweater. There were moths in the bedroom, but this time she wasn't surprised. Obviously, they weren't living in the sweater anymore. So where were they living? Olivia shook her bedroom drapes, and a few moths flew out, but mostly just dust. She'd never cleaned her drapes. She wasn't sure if they were supposed to be dry cleaned or what, so she just left them up. As she backed away from the window, she tripped over something. Really tripped, landed on her butt so hard it hurt. Beside her on the floor sat the purse Mr. Davies had given her, the one that belonged to his wife. Hadn't she thrown it in the closet last night when Shay asked her about it? Yeah, she definitely had. Shay must have gotten up in the middle of the night and dug around until she found it. That's how curious she was about what Olivia was hiding. Well, Shay would never know just by looking at the bag that it had once belonged to Mr. Davies' wife. No one would know that, except Mrs. Davies herself. Maybe the moths were living somewhere in the lining of the bag. Maybe it was time for Mrs. Davies' purse to find a new home in the garbage chute. It's not like Olivia needed it for anything. She wasn't even completely sure why she'd kept it all these years. Out it went. Olivia didn't even have any emotions about throwing it down the garbage chute. No emotions at all. When she got back to the apartment, she went straight to her laptop. She meant to get more work done, but she found herself searching for something on the internet, searching for Mr. Davies' obituary. Reginald Davies died suddenly. She didn't read the rest. Obviously, it mentioned his wife and his kids, but it didn't mention her. He'd told her she was the love of his life, but his obituary didn't say that. So she skipped to the end, to the part where it said where and when his funeral would be. That's what she really wanted to know. Funeral was tomorrow morning. She wanted to go. She planned to go.